afternoon to all the teachers attending the 3rd ELT Congress 2021 Lima edition, organized by Escuela de Educación Superior Pedagógica Pública, Monterrico.
During these 2 days, we are going to help you during this event. We are Via Sarquinho Maitawari and
Aileen Melissa Palomino Antesana,
students from the English Language Department.
We would like to start this Congress by expressing our appreciation to all the partners who help us make this event possible. Thanks to Ministerio de Educación,
British Council,
Rilo Andes,
Nuevas Técnicas Educativas Nutesa,
Macmillan Education Peru,
Pearson Education,
and Anglo Peru.
To start with this great event, we have the words of our General Director, Sister Livia Mariño Vargas.
Señores representantes del Ministerio de Educación, señores directivos de las instituciones educativas, comunidad docentes de las especialidades de inglés, señores de las instituciones aliadas, docentes y estudiantes de las instituciones educativas de básica y superior, públicas y privadas a nivel nacional. La Escuela de Educación Superior Pedagógica Pública Monterrico, enraizada en la espiritualidad del Sagrado Corazón, legado de la Santa Madre Magdalena Sofía Barat, fundadora de nuestra congregación, les da una cálida bienvenida, deseando que el amor del corazón de Jesús sea valiosa fuente para todos los que estamos presentes, comprometidos con la calidad educativa en servicio a nuestro Perú. Somos conscientes de que el actual contexto en el que vivimos, enmarcado por la crisis sanitaria nacional e internacional por la presencia del COVID-19, ha alterado nuestra forma de vivir y de relacionarnos en todos los aspectos, incluido el educativo. Es evidente que una manifestación de este cambio en la educación ha sido el paso inesperado, ¿no?, de la modalidad presencial a la virtual, provocando a veces situaciones de estrés, tanto en los jóvenes estudiantes como en los docentes. Sabemos que en todo espacio virtual, las emociones influyen en la relación entre los miembros de cualquier grupo humano. Es decir, dichas emociones juegan un papel importante en las relaciones familiares y sociales. La manifestación emocional constituye un elemento imprescindible para el proceso comunicativo se inicie y se desarrolle. Es por esto que en situaciones de no presencialidad, la expresión de emociones funciona como nexo de unión y motor que origina cercanía a pesar de la distancia, ayudando así a la proximidad. Valoramos la importancia que tienen los sentimientos. El interesarnos sobre cómo se encuentra la persona en su círculo de familia, estudio y trabajo motiva espacios de cercanía emocional en la virtualidad. La unidad de formación continua en la Escuela de Educación Superior Pedagógica Pública Monterrico busca generar espacios de análisis y reflexión sobre la problemática educativa actual para generar cambios necesarios en el quehacer pedagógico docente, desde la toma de decisiones oportunas y adecuadas. Este año, dado el contexto en el que vivimos, El tercer Congreso para Docentes de Inglés tiene como tema principal gestión de emociones en tiempos de enseñanza remota o de distancia. Enseñanza-aprendizaje marcados por la virtualidad. Somos testigos del momento duro, desconcertante y al mismo tiempo de luces y esperanzas que hoy nos toca vivir. La realidad no nos es ajena, nos interpela y nos convoca a un pensamiento crítico y propositivo, así como a un actuar comprometido y solidario. Nuevamente, estimada comunidad, les doy la bienvenida a este espacio de formación, de encuentro, de diálogo, reflexión y construcción de nuevos aprendizajes. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Sister Livia, for your words. Now, we'd like to announce that due to the great reception of the third ELT Congress, Managing Emotions in Times of Remote Teaching, with more than 800 participants, this event is being transmitted on YouTube.
To continue, we are going to start with the first roundtable. So, we invite Magali Ruas, coordinator of the English Language Department, as the moderator of the first roundtable.
Good afternoon, everyone, to this first roundtable. It is an honor for me to introduce our speakers. Let's start with Mrs. Karen Mesa, representative from the Ministry of Education. Mrs. Ofelia Villegas, representative from the British Council. Mrs. Violeta Tenorio, representative from the British Council. And Mrs. Mary Scholl, representative from the U.S. Embassy, Rilo Andes. This roundtable has 3 moments. In the first part, all the speakers will have 10 minutes to present their ideas about managing emotions in times of remote teaching. In the second part, we will answer the questions from the participants. And finally, each speaker will have 5 more minutes to share their final thoughts. Let's start with the first round table. Mrs. Karen Mesa, you start.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate this invitation. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really glad that we have so many people attending it. Thank you. So I would like to share with you some thoughts about the role of emotions when giving support and accompaniment to teachers. I think it is quite obvious for everybody. I'm sure that everybody here that is watching us right now have been on an emotional roller coaster. There were moments when we felt very sad, anxious, desperate, frustrated, happy, very excited, sometimes angry as well. And that has been due to the so hard times that Peru had to face. It is unthinkable, because this has not happened somewhere near the region. Maybe our friends from Ecuador also live a similar experience, but I'm sure that everybody that is watching this video right now, that is watching this conference, know of somebody very close to them, a close friend, a relative, a colleague, that could not win the battle against COVID. That has definitely affected on our emotions. It is said that emotions and motivation are closely related. And the more positive emotions we have can help us perceive time as fast, as if it went fast, no? As we usually say, time flies. That's when we feel that's why we feel when Saturdays and Sundays fly and Mondays to Fridays are probably very slow. And also when we have negative emotions, our perception of time changes and it makes it seem as if it went very slow. So time and how we perceive time is affected by our emotions, and so is motivation. We might feel motivated to continue, or we may not. During this time, we should admit that the ones that are more vulnerable were our grandparents and grandmothers, and in the education system were the students. The students were the most vulnerable because their education and growth has in a way been affected, and we know that very well. Students are in the process of growing. Students are in the process of getting to know themselves. They're in the process of making friends forever. They're in the process of understanding how they feel. If for an adult, it has been very difficult to deal with this mixture of emotions, imagine what it may have been for our students. And I'm sure you know, because you've been with them through the screens, through a phone, through text messaging, and you know that whatever they felt was because of the situation we have all been living. Also, it is very important to see that these students are part of a family. They are members of a family. And more now than ever, we understand that families directly influence how students feel. In our context, parents lost their jobs. Students were disheartened because they lost someone they loved. There were probably no devices they could use to connect with teachers, with classmates, with anybody. So families have always played an important role, but it is now that we probably understand it much better. So how a family felt also influenced on how students may have felt when they were in front of those screens or behind the phone line. The world has also understood that the ones who were there in the front line, helping students, those vulnerable students, continue with their education were the teachers. They are the ones who responded the quickest. They are the ones who were the closest to them. And teachers had to plan. They already knew how to plan. They know how to plan, but now it was in a different context. So in a way, they had not probably done it before. They had to create material in a way they had not presented it before. WhatsApp, videos, they became TikTokers. Some of those teachers responded in that way. Teachers had to learn new skills. No? They learned how to use their computers faster than they did, than they were probably doing it before the pandemic. How to use internet, apps, websites, and many other ways in which it can be used as a tool for learning and teaching. Teachers had to track students and families. They had to know what was happening with them. No? They had to see where they were, if they were able to connect or not. What was it that impeded them from following the lessons or from receiving the material? Teachers had to continue assessing. In these moments of uncertainty, in these moments of virtuality, in this distant education system, assessment became very important because everybody wanted to know or wants to know how students are doing. But we understood that more important than grading, it was always assessing them formatively. Teachers also became counselors. They did not only teach now their subjects, in this case English, but they also gave support to their students when they knew they had lost somebody, when they were absent. They were asking what happened, how they felt, and that was a task that in the past probably we did it, but not that intensively as we've been doing it during these times. And many other actions that teachers were doing. But teachers were doing all of this also with their emotions being affected. They had professional concerns. At that level, nobody knew, no teacher in the world, no system in the world, no institution in the world knew what was going to work or not. So we've been testing what could work in our context. So those professional concerns, whether what we were doing was right or wrong, also affected our emotions. That stressed us. Personal concerns were obviously present too. We have also teachers, we've lost somebody we loved, we've been anxious about what was going to happen the next day or the next few hours. And so that has affected our planning, our creation of material, etc. So I think we've learned that if we care about education, we should care about health. Mental health has become crucial in the way we perform our profession. When we have a stomachache, we do something about it. We take a pill, we rest. When we have some water. When we have a pain in our bodies, we go to the doctor. But when we feel very sad, what do we do? When we feel so tired, what do we do? Frustrated. We have to learn to pay attention, or we have learned in a way to pay attention to those emotions. That's caring about our mental health. If we as teachers are dealing with emotions and we are really aware of the importance of dealing with them, we will transmit that to our students as well. In this context of challenges where teachers had to plan, report, assess, create material, were feeling these professional and personal concerns and realized that their emotions were affecting everything they were doing, they needed help as well. They needed to be accompanied. They needed not to feel alone. So they needed a superhero. And who were the superheroes that helped these teachers to be in the front line of our education system? Who? The answer is other teachers. Other teachers contacted teachers. So teachers connecting teachers to help each other. Here, I think we have realized how important it is to be connected and even interconnected, so that we depend upon each other, that we are one world, that we are one community of teachers facing the same challenges and difficulties. And it's been amazing to see how teachers accompanied other teachers in this process of material creation, planning, even dealing with emotions, and giving a hand where needed. And that's why, as a result, we have seen probably many groups in social media, on the phone, WhatsApp groups, where they help each other. So the feeling of not feeling alone can make us change our emotions. And let's not forget that a teacher is a member of a school. And in the school, we have the director, administrators, we have the janitors, we have people, the counselors, psychologists that work in the school and are part of this community. So when we want to help teachers, we also want to see all the system where he is subsumed in. And the school is within or inside a community. And a community is inside a city, a country. So we have to see the whole picture. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Social Inclusion, many other sectors are need to put or to take action in order to help the education system. UGEL, DRI, the Ministry of Education, we're all doing what we think can work, but we know that whatever we do may not be enough. But as long as we understand what the needs of the teachers are and our students, then we will be able to accompany them better. I want to finish by saying that it is also, it's been great to see how the private sector has also played an important role in helping our teachers. Government, institutions, other countries, they all have been helping our teachers to be in the front line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Karen Mesa. It was a real pleasure to have you in this roundtable. Ms. Mesa is representing the Ministry of Education. She is now in charge of the secondary level at the Ministry of Education. She has a master in teaching English as a foreign language from UniAtlántico. Also, she has a master's degree in teaching higher education from San Marcos University. She's licensed she's a license in education from Pedagógico de Monterrico. She also holds a diploma in teaching English to young learners from University of Maryland. She's the founder of EL Talk. She worked at Pedagógico de Monterrico. She was the national head of from COAR schools. She's an English specialist at the Ministry of Education in the secondary level. And she also is a manager in projects for the British Council. Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Mesa. And now we are going to have Mrs. Violeta Tenorio. Violeta Paredes, pardon. Violeta Paredes was a clinical teaching student course professor at Enrique Guzmán y Valle La Cantuta University in Lima. She majored in Spanish at Universidad Nacional Mayor de San Marcos and holds a master's degree in education management from Católica University. Violeta is also part of the alumni from Arizona State University Methodology Course for Teachers, class of 2017, and a former British Council Champion Teacher 2019 program. So welcome, Ms. Violeta Paredes, and you are going to have 10 minutes in this roundtable.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rua. Afternoon to everyone, and I'm very delighted to be here. First of all, I want to thanks Centro de Extensión of Monterrico Institution for organizing this fascinating event, and also to the British Council for allowing me to represent them in this third ELT Congress. Okay, we are my colleague Ofelia Villegas and I, we are gonna present some pointers on social awareness, empathy for understanding diversity. We have some main goals here for this presentation, which are to reflect on the importance of taking others' perspectives, in our school community during online interactions, to motivate, to contribute to the well-being of the students, colleagues, and families. We have organizing this presentation. First, I am gonna give some ideas about social awareness, then the strategies to encourage empathy development while remote teaching. And my colleague, she will develop empathy, types of empathy, diversity, what is the definition of diversity, how does empathy influence diversity, what is the impact of teachers' empathy, and some ideas from our experience as teachers during those long years to practice empathy. Well, as Mrs. Karen has mentioned, during this remote learning, students and teachers have struggled with different issues related to social emotional aspect. So many of us, including our community, has experienced isolation because the last year we have been in our home mainly. Stress, of course, as not just as a teachers, as in our family, with maybe we have struggled with health from our family, because we are all in just in space in our home, and also we have experienced loss in our personal and our professional, in our community, right? And of course in our country. That is why we have to pay attention to this very, very important aspect in the human nature that allow us to face those difficult times. Maybe it will be more than last year and this year. Some important points here are the empathy and resilience. So I want to emphasize this. It is as a country, as a teachers, we need to understand that it's almost impossible to expect teaching and learning to happen, to occur in a crisis without attending to our emotions. So maybe the last year, at the beginning of the year, we were more focused on the academic part, but while the time goes, we know that if we can, we will do it, but mainly we will focus first of all in our emotion. Our emotion, and also from our students, and then to our community. So what is social awareness? Is the ability to understand and empathize with others, particularly with people, in this case with students from different families, from different backgrounds than one's all. Usually students or families that they are not close to our context, our regular maybe neighborhoods, and that is difficult. We know that in the definition could be, okay, as a teacher I understand, but really we can put our shoes in our students. That is hard. So I wanna present some strategies to encourage empathy, to help us to develop empathy during this remote teaching. So first, create opportunities to see and hear each other. And so we have this platform on the Minister, Aprendo en Casa, and we have some guidelines for English teacher or for all more. But first of all, in our classes, we need to promote opportunities, activities that help our students at least feel kind of connect with their peers. So many we have prepared some activities for the first 5 or 10 minutes to talk about our feelings, what are the things that we are doing, how we are coping with this situation in our family to feel more connected. Another point is enable cooperative work. So as a teacher, we use many apps or ways to connect with our students. So we are using WhatsApp, Zoom, or Google Meet. And in a big part from the face-to-face class, when we have in the regular classes, we use many individual work or group work. So here also in the remote learning, we can continue with that with the tools that we have. So for example, if we are using Google Meet, maybe we can help us with the breakout rooms in the Zoom tool and find ways to continue with, keep with this cooperative group work. Another important point is provide opportunities for social interaction in our classes. So for instance, in my classes, I use Nearpod, not in all because we have different students for social economic status that they don't have a regular internet connection. So when I have the opportunity, so I use Nearpod, and in that app we have the collaborative board where we can post many comments or images and give them among the students, they can give them some likes, similar to Facebook, but in more academic environment. Another strategy, encouraging and conversation style. This is kind of tricky, I'm gonna say, because we can just very informal, be kind of informal with our students, but it's very important to set boundaries for them because we know that they are teens. So in order to be very welcome environment and respectful, so here encourage the conversation style but set boundaries. Another important aspect is approach with care and compassion. So while we are during those long years, we have faced many issues in our families, maybe health problems too. But we have almost 300 students, each English teacher. So we also now we have the students and the parents and the administrators, and it is kind of difficult to be 24/7 in a really good mood. So maybe when we don't have we are not in a really good mood for that parent, for that students, at least practice the active listening. That is important. Maybe at that moment we don't have the right words or the right mood, but at least we can practice the active listening and then start with kindness, care, and finally with compassion. Another important aspect is be conscious of disadvantaged students. I'm going to tell you that I have 8 classes in a public school, and in each class I have different backgrounds for the students. And some of them are very disadvantaged students. They don't have the resources, the internet connection, and we use one week WhatsApp and another week maybe Google Meet for students who have the opportunities, they want to practice more. And so taking into account of those backgrounds, we have students that they maybe they struggle with the support from the parents. They are just alone at home because parents are working. So take in account on those students and try to prepare material for them. Finally, keep it simple. We have in the platform from the Ministry of Education, we have very simple activities, but we know our students are in different levels, and if we try to complete all the activities, it could be overwhelmed because it's just one subject and they have 10 more. But completing 1 or 2 per classes when 3 instructions in each activity, and try to all of the students that are in the synchronous are participating in the activities. It's for me it's more important the quality that complete all the activities that we have in the platform. So that are some strategies that I want to share with you. And then we are continue with my colleague, Ofelia. Ofelia.
Many thanks, Mrs. Violeta.
Okay.
Now we're going to continue with our next speaker, Ofelia Villegas. She is also a representative from the British Council.
Okay.
Sorry, Ms. Villegas. Let me introduce yourself, okay? Mrs. Villegas is a teacher at Gran Unidad Escolar Leoncio Prado in Huánuco. She majored in psychology at Universidad de Huánuco. She holds a master's degree in education management and has a doctoral studies in education from Universidad Nacional Daniel Alcides Carrión from Cerro de Pasco, Peru. Ofelia is a part of the alumni from Arizona State University Methodology Course for Teachers, class of 2017, and a former British Council Champion Teacher 2019 program. Let's continue with Mrs. Ofelia Villegas.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. As our moderator said, I am Ofelia Villegas and I'm a teacher. And well, first of all, I want to thank the organizers for having me here. It is an honor to share some reflections with you. Okay, so thank you for being part of this important event. So as my colleague Violeta said, it is important also to remember some definitions, okay? So in this case, we are going to say what empathy is. So according to Madera, it says, empathy is an other-focused emotional response that allows one person to affectively connect with another, often through feelings of sympathy, compassion, tenderness, and concern. Okay, so this is just to remember those definitions. Let's continue. Now, Daniel Goleman says that we have 3 types of empathy. The first one is the cognitive empathy. So it happens when we are able to know how another person is feeling and what they are thinking, okay? The second one is emotional empathy, which occurs when we absorb the feeling of another person often leading to a physical reaction, okay? And the last one says compassionate empathy. We can say that this is the highest pro-social skill because it is understanding someone's situation, feeling for them, and being driven to help. That is an important type of empathy. Let's continue with another definition. In this case, we are going to talk about diversity. It means understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing our individual differences. These can be along the dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age. We have also physical abilities, religious beliefs, political beliefs, and other ideologies, okay? So it is the exploration of these differences, but in a safe, positive, and nurturing environment. That is our labor as teachers. So now the big question is, how does empathy influence diversity? An empathetic disposition has been associated with increased sensitivity to different cultures, and it has become an important issue, especially in educational settings. And it is seen as essential for teachers' leadership to understand, validate, and empower students with a diversity of characteristics and backgrounds. Now, it says, empathy can allow students to feel heard or understood in many different situations, large or small, okay, which is very important within society that requires an understanding, encounter with differences. We have here a beautiful phrase that says, students who are loved at home come to school to learn, and students who aren't come to school to be loved, okay? So we always remember that, yes? And empathy, so what is the impact of teachers' empathy? It is positive on a student-teacher relationship and enhances classroom management also, okay? It could have positive effects on student engagement and performance, okay, in our lessons. Now, we have, in this case, a recipe to practice empathy. Well, maybe it's not, or they are not rules to follow, okay? They are not mandatory, but we can say that they are kind of advices, some suggestions we all could practice, could put into practice in our classrooms, okay? So let's talk about the first step, step number 1. Empathy means committing to doing the hard work of change, okay? So we need to move to action, to exercise through compassion. And also recognizing that we are all starting with from different places in our journey, and be willing others alone. And the last one in this step, but not the least, is to create safety in our classrooms in order to have students who feel that they belong to the group, that they are part of a conversation, that they all can be chosen in many situations. Then we have a second step that says practice non-judgment. This is an important aspect. So do not place your values on others, okay? Instead of that, let's respect people's lived experiences, preferences, and also ways of relating to the world, okay? And it is important to promote dialogue instead of silence. We know that curiosity is the intersection between empathy and inclusion. Okay, so now we have step 3. We are all human beings, so we know that we will always make mistakes. So let's commit to acknowledging them and growing from them. There is always something meaningful on each experience, okay, with each experience we have. And the last one says, show yourself kindness. It is important to start loving ourselves, then we can show love, we can show empathy to other people. Okay, so here we have some references where you can look for maybe more information about these important topics. That's about my participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ophelia and Mrs. Violeta, okay, for your participation representing the British Council. This topic is really interesting and we are getting touched by this one, okay? Now, let me introduce our last speaker of this roundtable, Mrs. Mary Scholl. She is a deep believer in learning empathy, creativity, and curiosity. She's a fellow of the Institute for Collaborative Learning and founder of Centro Espiral Maná in Costa Rica. She has been teaching language, English and Spanish for over 30 years and has been designing and implementing educational projects in Latin America for over 20 years. Mary has been a TESOL certificate trainer and trainer of trainers since 2001. She's representing U.S. Embassy, Rilo Andes. Welcome, Mrs. Mary Scholl.
Thank you so much, Magali. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly, Mrs. Scholl.
Well, thank you. You can call me Mary, but thank you. Thank you all so much. It's wonderful to be with you here today. And I want to thank everybody who's organizing this conference, an amazing experience. And I want to thank the U.S. Embassy for sponsoring me and the work that we're doing. We're doing some really beautiful work in Peru with Peruvian teachers. So it's wonderful to be here with you both as teachers and also with students, I think, right? I also want to just thank Karen and Violeta and Ophelia for saying really important and beautiful things before I get to come in here. You know, Karen, you talked about the role of emotions and that we all are on an emotional roller coaster and that we need to care about mental health and that we are in a system. You know, we have families, we have schools, we have communities, and within that we need to take care of each other. We need to pay attention to our mental health. And when Violeta spoke about the importance of taking another perspective and social awareness, and Ophelia about empathy and types of empathy and diversity, all of this is incredibly important. And what I want to share with you today is something about listening. Because listening is a fundamental way of working with emotions, actually. How I choose to listen makes a big difference in what I feel and how I process my feelings. When I started teaching, I thought about listening as a skill, and I thought about different kinds of listening that I do to learn language. But I didn't think about the kinds of listening I do just as a human being and how my listening affects the speaker. So today I want to share with you just a little bit about how our listening, how we can choose different kinds of listening and how that impacts our emotions, and it impacts how we connect with another person. So the title that I gave it here was Listening to Support Learning. And it's not just me listening to my students to support the students' learning. It also could be me listening to myself to support my own learning. It could be me listening to a peer to support their learning, right? So there's lots of different potential listening people that I would be listening to, and there's lots of different reasons. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be in there. So when I think about listening, I'm going to put them all up. There are so many different intentions and types of listening. I didn't really think about it so much when I started out. It's like, oh, I just listen. I'm just listening. But what is my purpose in listening? And is my purpose in listening really working? So I'm kind of curious what kinds of listenings you all use. And also, what do you notice about the kind of listening you use? So here I've listed 12 different kinds of listening. I'm going to talk about 3 of them in depth, but here I just wanted to share with you. So we can start to think about active listening, empathetic listening, contemplative listening, story listening, mindful listening, silent listening, reflective listening, imaginative listening, appreciative listening, selective listening, discerning listening, and biased listening. All these different intentions. So for example, I'm going to go deeply into active, empathetic, and contemplative. So I'm just going to tell you about some of the other ones. Silent listening, I just listen and I don't respond at all. I'm just present and I'm quiet. And my purpose of listening is just to be silent and receive. All right. Appreciative listening is a kind of listening where I'm listening so that I can notice what it is that I value in that other person. So somebody might be telling me a story about their experiences in COVID, and I might say something like, wow, I so appreciate how resilient you are. And I notice something that's positive in them, and I appreciate it. And that kind of listening helps people notice, first of all, some of the good things about themselves that they might not have noticed otherwise. So in terms of dealing with our emotional lives, we can support each other by noticing and appreciating things in ourselves. Another kind of listening here, I just want to note is selective listening. I don't think that always helps. And I don't think biased listening always helps. And usually that's the kind of listening where I'm listening only for the right answer or for my answer. And so I'm not fully listening to the other person because I'm thinking about what's right and wrong, and I'm listening to see if they say what's right and wrong. And I don't think that helps so much. I'm going to share 3 kinds of listening that I think really do help when we're dealing with emotions and our emotional lives. One is active listening. So when I listen with attention and concentration, and I'm focusing on the words and ideas that the speaker is saying, and I repeat them back, those exact words, so that the person who's speaking knows that I've gotten their ideas. So that success comes when the speaker tells me, the listener, that I have correctly understood what they're trying to say. That's active. We call that active listening, right? Another kind of listening is empathetic listening. And this is where when I'm listening to you talk to me, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and empathize and think about what's going on inside of you. What do you need? What emotions are you having? How are you experiencing the story that you're telling me? And I respond, as the listener, I respond with minimal words, guessing at your experience, staying in your world and not going into my own world. So successful empathetic listening is when the speaker shows or says the listener has understood their experience. And this empathetic listening, especially now in the time of COVID, especially now when we're doing all of this work online, is one of the most powerful tools we have. People need to be listened to and they need to be understood, not fixed, not give solutions unless they ask for those solutions. A lot of times they just need to know that somebody has heard them and understood their experience. So empathetic listening is incredibly powerful. Often after somebody has been empathetically listened to, they often can figure out their own ways of solving their challenges. It's quite interesting and very empowering. And the third kind of listening I want to share with you today is contemplative listening. It's not a conversation, and it's not about the listener. So if you come to me and you want to talk to me about something and you say, Mary, I think I need to be heard, but I'm not quite sure what I need, I might choose contemplative. And I listen from a place of kindness and deep awareness of your humanity and of your spirit. So I'm listening to your words, but I'm listening deeper. I'm listening into you, the spirit of who you are. And I'm here to be present with you as you're speaking. And in this kind of listening, I don't actually talk, I don't respond with words hardly at all, right? Success in contemplative listening is when the speaker feels done. They're like, oh, thank you, I just had to get that off my chest. Beautiful. I don't have to say anything back to the listener. I just accompany them. I guess, Karen, we were talking about accompanying our learners, accompany them just by listening contemplatively and really tuning into who they are and in a way that really comes from my place of kindness and generosity. So these are three kinds of listening that I think we could all practice that will help us witness and support each other through all of these emotions that we're experiencing. So I think that is it for my slides for today. Thank you so much. I think that was 10 minutes too, right?
Thank you very much, Mary, for this important issue that we have to consider when we have to deal with emotions when we teach. Okay? Thank you very much. Now, I invite all the participants to write your questions in our chat box, okay? And also I invite the 4 speakers of our first roundtable to activate their cameras, okay? Because I just have some few questions for you 4, okay? Thank you very much. Okay, the first question. Here it says, I have a question for the panel when time comes. It is an honest curiosity. How far, in your view, does the role of the teacher go when we deal with external factors? For example, family, conflicts, social violence in their community that are not in our control and that really affect the students' emotions, mental health, and well-being. Who wants to start?
Magali, may I? Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. I think there are things that we cannot control, definitely. We wish we could, but we can't. And that's something we have to also learn to accept. But we know that we are being affected by different events in our country, not only the pandemic, being the pandemic the most important, no? The one that influences the most. I think it's time we make it more natural to introduce conversations and discussions of feelings, how we feel. And that's something we can do as teachers. We have students with us and we can ask them how they feel and really discuss why and how it affected them. And we can create those safe spaces. We can also help others, the ones that are closest to us as teachers. As I said, teachers can help teachers. And that's another way, as Mary said, let's listen. Let's learn to listen to our colleagues, to our friends. And I think we can, in that way, we can all try to deal with what is happening around us, and that unfortunately we cannot have so much control on.
Okay.
Mrs. Ruas,
Yes, of course. Be my guest.
Okay.
Be my guest.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree with Mrs. Mesa. Definitely, there are things that are in our control and things are not. So that's reality in our country. More that we are in this remote learning. At least in the face-to-face classes, we have the student, we can help with our expressions, sometimes with a hug. Yeah, but now it's a different situation. I would like to, it impacted me, Mary, about your empathetic listening, because sometimes many parents and colleagues, they, of course, students, they just wanna be listened. We are very eager to help them. So please go to this particular institution and talk to this person. Maybe that person is a lawyer, but they want just be listened because they don't have any at home. And last year they were at home, sometimes by themselves, with all the adults. And yeah, I think like the Mary contribution was great, the empathetic listening. And that is another important point that I wanna present here is that we have protocols in our schools about the violence in the families. And so maybe as a formal, very formal, this part is the listening, but of course we have formal protocols in our schools to with the tutoring program, with some teachers who are in charge of these particular students to report if there are any situation, particularly violent situations that affect the emotional, physically the students. So yeah, that's my my view about this question.
Can I?
Of course. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Yes, we are learning a lot in this beautiful event. And yes, as Miss Karen said, now we are not English teachers. I mean, we are promoting through different topics in our schools, institutes, university. We are promoting practicing empathy. We are talking about diversity, how to respect different perspectives, differences, and all that. So I think this is a good point. Through our lessons, we can share with our students. And also, I think, yes, listening, contemplative listening is an important aspect because when a student sometimes tell us about his or her problem, maybe a person would say, I have a solution for your problem, or I think you should do that. So why don't you and many things like that. But as I said before, non-judgment, please. It is important to listen, to be empathetic, and the most important thing is that we are maybe, we don't know how many problems our students are dealing with. So it is important to think about them as human beings, not only as students who need to get 20 in their scores. Yes, so that's about my participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ophelia. Thank you, Violeta. Mary, would you like to add?
Well, thanks. Yeah, I kept nodding. You kept saying all the things that I probably want to say too, right? We're humans, and I think, you know, the question reminds me of some comments I hear teachers say, and that I say too, like, how much can I do? Like, I studied English to teach English, and now I have to be a counselor or a psychologist or a sociologist or a magic person who can just fix things. Like, how much can we do? Right? And at the same time, one of the things that I learned, I do a lot of work with compassionate communication and a lot of work with a concept called holding space. And that's when we create the conditions for people to work through their challenges on their own without me fixing them, but me listening to them or me supporting them in ways that they'd like to be supported. And with all of the external factors that you mentioned, those things are out of our control. But what is in my control is how I show up in the moment with my students. And as you all had mentioned, one of the ways of showing empathy is actually offering less content and more human time. You know, it's like, we need, okay, so let's be human first. Let's connect. Let's find out what's going on. What are you bringing into our classroom today, whether it's virtual or present? Take that time. I can do that. I can take a little bit of time at the beginning, or I can take time. I can create language activities where the students are learning more about emotional intelligence. I can create language learning activities where they get to reflect on their lives and share that with each other and build up the resilience, or to work on pro-social skills. I can take time to do that. So, you know, to me, it's a question of how do I do two things? One is create human time. Let's be human together. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. And if something serious comes up, I need to have them go in that direction. I'm not trying to substitute that, but we can do a lot as human beings, just as fellow human beings. So the human time, and then also, how can I create pro-social skill learning in the classroom? Because that's going to affect their well-being and their mental health and their emotional intelligence and their emotional capacity.
Thank you, Mary. I have a special question for you, okay, that here says, as teachers, we do tend to listen for academic purposes. For example, to correct or to ensure students are using the language, but not for true social purposes. How, in your view, can teachers be more mindful or self-conscious about this and reverse the situation?
Well, thank you for that question. I think the first thing is becoming aware that there are different kinds of listening, and that listening for academic purposes is not the only way to serve learning in the classroom. It's an important way, but it's not the only way. And so I need to become aware of my repertoire. The word this week I'm using, the metaphor I'm using, is a bouquet of flowers. So each flower represents a different kind of listening. I'm feeling about flowers this week. And so I need to know that I need to learn about what my intentions are and practice it. And the thing about listening and intentional listening is that when I listen, the place I get the results of the impact is in how the other person responds. So I have to get out of my right, wrong, blame mindset. I can't say to you, but Karen, I was listening to you empathetically and you didn't respond well. If the impact, if she didn't feel my empathy, then I didn't really offer it. And so becoming an intentional listener, I have to really broaden my awareness, and I have to watch the impact and then change and adapt myself to hopefully have the kind of impact that I'd like to have. So, how can teachers be more mindful? Be more mindful. Practice, learn, explore, give yourself grace. Like, you're human. Did anybody ever teach you about this before? No, right? So we need to learn, and we need to be careful and graceful with ourselves and forgive ourselves for maybe not being how we'd like to be yet, and get excited about how we can grow as humans too.
Okay. Mrs. Karen Mesa, based on these 2 years of experience in distance learning and all we have faced, what do we expect next year regarding teachers and students' emotions?
A very good question. Very good question. I wish I knew. I'm going to use my powers. And what I know is that we have been facing COVID in its highest peak. And now what we are going to face is again anxiety. But anxiety because everybody is now thinking of going back to school, face-to-face lessons. So our emotions again will be challenged because we don't feel safe. Parents may not feel safe that their kids are going to school. The trust is going to be affected. I'm sure parents may not trust teachers that will be able to take care of, and teachers may not trust directors, so that they go back to safe schools and etc. So that is going to be affected. So our emotions will definitely be again challenged. So the best way to deal with that is what we are learning here, how to be present, accept the feelings that we have. We're human beings. We will have to feel that. If we feel sad, we feel sad, but let's do something about it. We all have some tools to deal with that. We have friends, close colleagues to talk to, people that can relate to what we are feeling. The more we talked about it, the better. And if you need help, let's go and look for professional help. Let's not be afraid of going to a psychologist. We all need it. We do. So whatever feeling we're going to have, let's deal with it. Do not think that it does not exist. Do not live in denial.
Many thanks, Mrs. Mesa. The next question is for Violeta and Ophelia, okay? How often are students given opportunities to learn about people from different cultures or backgrounds? And in which ways could we promote empathy for diversity?
I'm gonna say from my experience, well, I'm in Lima and Ophelia is in Huánuco, so we have we have different experience in we been close preparing for this Congress, and we have exchanged many experiences. So in my school particularly, it's really big. It's almost near 2,000 students. Really, it's a really big school, and it's kind of diverse, but in a way, because we have some students from Colombia, from Venezuela, And in the regular classes, in the face-to-face part since 2018, I think we having those students, and it was a rich experience. At the beginning, we think that, oh, okay, our students, they are not get used to this, and okay, but they were very welcome. We were very surprised and delighted because they welcome those students, and the fear came from not from the students, from the parents and some teacher. Why? But that is, I think, the part of empathy comes. We feel close to someone who we know that is kind of close to us, maybe our neighbor, our colleague, but they don't have the teens. It was very, very interesting. And so I have some cases of diversity, and I think it's the fear because they don't know what is happening with these teens or parents that are from a different country than us. So instead of looking for what is the difference with them, so find some common ground with them. So we have the same issues 20 years ago because we traveled to Venezuela and try to find those common grounds and work on that, because we share many things as Latinos that we can help each other and learn, because I remember last 2 weeks ago, I think we were talking about in Aprendo en Casa about the healthy food or something. Okay, so the Venezuelan, please tell me what is your favorite food. Oh, okay, and the Peruvian, oh, miss, I like ceviche, right? We have some common grounds as a Peruvians. We like food, we're foodies, and continue with that. So I think during these difficult times, we will facing many challenges. The diversity, we will grow in our country. We experience with this new coming. But my suggestion is to find the common with those people instead of the differences.
Thank you, Violeta. Ophelia, would you like to add something else?
Okay, so the question was about ways to promote diversity.
Diversity, empathy for diversity, yeah.
Okay, so as I said before, it is important to respect our differences, but also our uniqueness. And we as teachers, we could create safety. We try to create safety. And in this way, we are going to ensure that all students feel welcome, comfortable, and they are going to feel they are part of the school family, okay? As well as to create a sense of belonging. And there is one way, for example, we can create this sense of belonging when we maybe highlight our students' qualities, talents, positive aspects, and we create the opportunities so the students can show those talents, those skills that they have. And also, we know that a group in a school, for example, there is only a leader and the others are the followers. That is what we know. But when we promote empathy for diversity, we can help the students to be chosen. I mean, all of them have the opportunity to be chosen in a group, so the leadership can rotate, for example, yeah? And another good aspect is to promote curiosity, because when a person is curious, this person listen without judgment. In this way, we focus on exploring. We want to know more about the people and their situation. Yeah, that is about my answer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ophelia.
Una consulta, yo he leído antes, me dice usted, ¿no?
Sí.
What would be the most significant contribution of neuroeducation in relation to the development of emotional competence of students in times of pandemic? Who can give an answer to this question?
I could start.
Yeah, Mary, go ahead.
I think the most important contribution that neuroscience has is that it's convincing us that it's important. Because people say, well, science says it. And it's true. I use neuroscience to prove why we have to study emotional intelligence, why empathy works, why compassion works, why forgiveness works. And I say the science, I say the research on positive psychology so that people will believe me. But I want them to believe me just long enough that they really try it out. After they have their own experience of making it work, that's going to become stronger than their neuroscience research.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I use it as a door to get into them trying it and believing it. I think that to me is the biggest there's many, many contributions, but the biggest one is for us to really say, oh, this does work. It's not just fluffy. It's not soft skills, right? Mm-hmm. These are not soft skills. These are pro-social skills. They're hard to do. They take a lot of work. So I don't use the term soft skills anymore. And I think that the neuroscience helps us validate that. And in validating that, someday we'll be able to do what Karen's saying. We need to pay attention to mental health. It's okay to get help. It's okay to grow and learn. We come from a history of I mean, obviously I grew up in a different culture than Peru, but I think from my experience, we come from a world where they often don't value the emotional side and the emotional reality in life. And so we have to work to shift that. And neuroscience helps us. Thank you, neuroscience.
Yeah. And also I can add something else about this question proposed by one of the participants. And it is important here in this time as teachers, we need to start just revising and studying again how our brains work in order to understand these cognitive processes that will help students and teachers, okay, to understand and to help them with working or dealing with emotions during any subject area. And that's really an important factor and issue that we have to start working with. It's a must in our lives nowadays. Okay. With this, we finish this second moment, okay, or second part. And now I invite all of you, my speakers from the first round table. You have 3 minutes, okay, for your final thoughts, okay? Let's start with Mrs. Mesa, then Ophelia, then Violeta, and finally Mary, okay? You have 3 minutes for your final thoughts.
Thank you, Magali. Okay, I think I would like to close my participation here by saying that let's get ready for the emotions that are coming. Again, those mixtures of emotions are going to be back because we are going to be facing these face-to-face classes that return to school will be happening little by little, and I'm sure there will be things that will work and things that may not work, and we will have to reevaluate how to do things better. And so let's be careful on how we work on our trust to each other. I would also like to say that if we want to help each other, I totally agree with Mary saying that we have to learn to listen. So I would add that we will first have to listen to concern first before acting. At school, in the space of connectivity that we have with teachers, among teachers and students and teachers, I think we should continue creating psychological safe spaces. And at the school, the directors and administrators should also try to implement that, not only for students, but also for teachers, so that they feel there's a space for them where they can go when they feel emotionally challenged. So let's normalize discussions of feelings at the school. And let's always keep an eye on a bigger picture. Keep an eye that if something's happening with the student, there's people behind them, there's a system behind them, there's an ecosystem behind them. Same thing with teachers, same thing with the director, before we give a response, before we judge others. So let's think of a bigger picture all the time.
Thank you, Mrs. Mesa. Ophelia?
Okay, I would like to highlight some ideas. And the first one is that there is a relationship between empathy and diversity. I think we should understand that, because when we understand that we all have individual differences, and in many dimensions, as I said before, we also are going to accept the other person, okay? So our interactions are going to get better, okay? Relationships with teachers, colleagues, student and teacher, etc. And it is important also to create safety in our groups, in our sessions, so our students can feel that they belong to the group. And one of the ways also is to create or to promote curiosity. So let us, our students, to know each other, not to focus on their individual box, if we can say, okay, but to have the opportunity to interact, to meet each other, and also to respect each other. And there is one important aspect that it is related to elevate our students' voices. I think it is very important to listen, but it is also meaningful to our students can feel that they have the big privilege that they can represent their voices, so they can be heard and they can be understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ophelia. Violeta?
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Rua. I want to add just a little bit something to my comments, to Ophelia comments about before we as a teachers, at least at my age, 40, we come from a different education. 10 years ago, 30 years ago, it was impossible to talk about feelings. Everything was academic. You need to pass this exam. You need to be prepared for your exam to get into the university, because if you're not getting to the university, you are done. And as a parents, our parents say, it doesn't matter your emotion, your feelings. You need to please study and focus on that. And as a teens, we face many issues as our kids too. We have many scars as adults. And in my perspective from these 2 years, that being in particular with our families, I learned to know myself. I aware of myself more than many years ago. I learned a lot from myself. And I think the first, because I want to thank the Monterrico institution to bring this topic about emotions. As a teacher, we have to learn to self-aware ourselves, our emotions, to live our emotions, and talk with our colleagues, and then start with our students too, because they are from a different generation, and they will face, I don't know what they're gonna face, because I didn't think about this COVID-19. It was kind of, it's real. And yeah, so first is to self-aware our emotions as a teachers, as a human beings, of course, and with our families, with our colleagues, and then expand to our classes with our students, and be proud of who we are, because we are unique as a human being. Our students, they are unique. They bring the uniqueness to our class, and they can add to this diversity in our class. And we share, of course, common things, but also we are unique. So that's my final thoughts to this table.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tenorio. Thank you very much. Mary?
Thank you so much. I want to echo Karen, Ofelia, and Violeta. Everything you said were things I was thinking about. And going last, I'm like, oh, now what am I going to say? Oh, now what am I going to say? Because you said such beautiful things. It's all true. You know, and I want to echo, the one thing is to thank the Pedagógico for bringing this topic in. It legitimizes it. And we need that, right? So I want to go from that level. So what I'd like to leave us with, including myself, is I think one of the challenges of this area is that the personal is professional, and our professional gets personal. My own personal skills affect how I teach. And when it comes to dealing with emotions and emotional capacity, I have to really work on myself. And it's not here. It's a dialogue, right? Between my head, my heart, and my gut, like all of that, all of me. We're so used to focusing on that left half of the brain, even though we have whole humans sitting with us. So how can we work with our wholeness so that we can work with our students' wholeness? And it will require growth on our part as teachers, because I'm not teaching to the left brain. I have to know myself. I have to learn myself and keep learning so that I can live this with my students. And it's not simple, but it is so meaningful and it's so rewarding that I just want to encourage everybody to include this, our human work in our academic world. So thank you all so much for this opportunity. And thank you for all your wisdom that you've shared.
Thank you very much, Mary. And with this, we have finished the first roundtable of this day. Okay, thank you very much to the 4 great speakers, Mrs. Karen Mesa, Mrs. Ofelia Villegas, Mrs. Violeta Tenorio, and Mary Scholl. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Expertise, okay? And we learned so many things today. Thank you very much. Now, I invite my friends, Villasar and Eileen, to continue with this event.
We thank Ms. Magali Ruas and each of the specialists of today's roundtable. Now, before moving to the workshops, we have an important announcement. At the end of the workshops at 7:30 p.m., you have to complete the attendance form that will appear in the chat box.
Once you have completed the attendance with your details, you can leave the meeting. Thank you very much for being part of this third ELT Congress, and don't forget that tomorrow we will start by 8:30 a.m.
Now, let's meet today's speakers. For room number 1, there is Kevin Laura de la Cruz, educational researcher. He is Master in University Teaching and Educational Management from the private University of Tacna, and Master in Research and Pedagogical Innovation from the Hermilio Valdizán Huánuco National University. He also has a degree in education, specializing in foreign language and interpreting translator, in addition to a second professional specialization in intercultural and bilingual education by the Jorge Basadre Groman National University.
For room number 2, from Pearson Education, Patricia Almendro. She's an English teacher and has completed postgraduate courses in England and in Universidad Católica de Salta. She has worked in Argentina in many state and private schools teaching young learners, teens, and adults. She has been a teacher, teacher trainer, and an English language coordinator at various points in her life. She is now an ICF coach, a certified master trainer, and coordinator of the academic consultancy unit for Pearson South Latin America.
And for room number 3, from Anglo Peru, Julio Valladares. He holds a diploma in Competencias Directivas from the Business School of Universidad de Piura, PAT, and a diploma in Critical Thinking by the University of Oregon. He has been a teacher of English more than 30 years. He has worked for Britannico, Richmond, and Camelot as and teacher trainer. He has delivered academic lectures in different places in Peru, Bolivia, Mexico, China, and USA.
Now, we are going to move to our respective rooms. How are we going to do this, Aileen?
Well, we will see a chart on our screens. Then we have to click on the room that has the name of the workshop that we have chosen at the moment of registration. And that's all.
Perfect. To the ones who follow us on YouTube, we ask you to stay online to watch the transmission of one of the workshops. The rest of them will be recorded and published on the platform later. All right, see you there.
Hello? Hello? Oh gosh. Hello?
Mr. Valladares, could you please wait for a second? Thank you very much.
All right.
Hi,
Because-
Julio.
My connection is unstable. Oh, fine.
also enjoy. So let's move on. The topic today is, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. This was Jimmy Dean's song, and maybe some of you can remember these lyrics. And the idea is, well, what am I going to do? What's going on? What is going on around the world? It's something that I cannot change, I can't control. But there are things that I do have the power to control, and I can do something about it. And I can help my students move around and understand that they have the power to do something, yes? And what about emotions? Emotions are around all the time. So today, by the end of this session, we will have some clear action, an action plan, yes? An organization, ideas. My objective is that you take away some ideas to turn the situation, to turn what you can control into the destination you want. So thinking about, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails. The first question I have for you, and you can answer in the chat, or you can just take down notes in your notebook, it's for you. But the first question we have, and we are going to reflect a lot during the next 40 minutes, what is your destination? Yes, because if we want to talk about emotions and how we feel and what we are doing, the first thing we need to know is, where are we going? When I ask, what's your destination? What I mean is, what is your north? Where are you going? Where do you want to go? So imagine with me that you are starting this trip. You are starting now for the next 40 minutes. You are sailing with me. And of course, there's a lot of wind. There's wind of change, and we will talk about that. But we want to reach our destination. But to reach the destination, we need to know first where we want to go. So in your papers, I'm going to give you a minute for you to think, what is it I want today? What do I want? What do I want to reach with my students, for myself? Where am I going? What's my purpose in life? What's my purpose as a teacher, as a professional? We cannot change anything. We can't change our emotions. We cannot manage our emotions. We can't be conscious if we don't know where we are going, what we want, what we need. And we are going to be talking about this a lot today. So remember, I recommend you to grab a pen, paper, and start taking down notes of all the questions. Yes, you need, if you want to go somewhere, you need to know where. You need to know what you need, what you want. So that's the question now. Where are you going? Where do you want to go for success? Remember, we want to be successful professionals. We want to give our students the best. Where are you going? What do you need to reach your destination? In order to know what you need to know where you're going. Yes, so start taking down notes. Let's see what you have there. Yes. So today we will have some etiquette for the next 40 minutes in order that you take away a very clear plan of action for the rest of the year or for 2022, you decide. But we want to have a lot of time for reflection. I want you to take down notes on everything that comes up so that you can really review it at home later. And I'm going to share with you a lot of evidence. Yes, evidence so that we understand what we are talking about. Yes, and why we say the things we say. And of course, you can ask questions. You can use the chat, ask questions, make comments in the chat. Yes. So the first thing we are going to do is have a look at our agenda. We do have a very interesting agenda. Yes, today we are going to talk about the unexpected, how to get ready to sail and to adjust our sails. We need to expect the unexpected, and we're going to talk about how to do that. We will also talk about how to transform ourselves, to transform others and help our students, and also to get ready to shine. And in that way, we can also help others shine bright. So three very interesting steps. Yes, and get ready for this trip. Are you all ready? Give me your thumbs if you are ready. And remember, I invite you to write in the chat box any comments, any questions that you might have during the session. So there we go. What can you see in the screen? I would like you to tell me in the chat, what year do you think this photograph was taken? In what year the photograph was taken? And I want to see your guesses in the chat. Come on. What are your guesses? 2020, 2005, 1910, 1920, 1980, 18, 90. What are your guesses? Someone says 1950s, in the 1950s. A traditional class, says Natalie. Yes, most of you are saying traditional class. Yes, that's what we see. We see a traditional classroom, and let me tell you that this picture was taken more than 1,000 years ago. Wow. Yes. So it was not in the 90s, in very traditional class, yes? And the question is, what has changed? When we talk about winds of change, what has changed? Give me in the chat your answers. What has changed? Looking at that photograph, what has changed lately? Yes? We are not in a traditional class. Students participate more. The environment, I agree with you, very good. The board has changed, very good. Yes, very good, Elizabeth. What else? The technology, yes. Lots of things, the generation, yes, very good. Lots of things have changed in that picture that was taken in 1810. In 1810, imagine, long time ago, yes? So the vision of the world has changed. And of course, the pandemic has changed everything too. So if we look at what has happened, we can find a lot of information. This information was taken from the World Economic Forum, and we can see that really a lot of things have changed. A lot of companies are thinking about face-to-face or online. They are thinking about how to improve and make online training not boring. They are thinking about increasing their budgets for training their staff. And they are thinking about digital formats. And this is what's going on with the pandemic, that we have shifted. And we have to expect the unexpected. How can we do that? How do you feel when I tell you that you have to expect the unexpected? What are your feelings? If I tell you changes will come on, the winds of change are here and changes won't stop. What are your feelings if I tell you expect the unexpected? Some of you are scared, some of you feel fear, very good. And it's okay. Let your emotions come. Just talk about it. And that's why we are here today, to talk about emotions and to see what we can do with them. And why do we have to expect the unexpected? Well, we used to live in a VUCA environment. Those of you who remember what VUCA stands for can help me, yes? V stands for, what is V? V stands for, maybe you have read, confusion. Yes, lots of confusion nowadays. We have moved from a VUCA world to a BANI world. What does that mean? Maybe you have heard about the VUCA world. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Yes, that was what we adopted from military strategists, and we understood that we have to be prepared for this volatile world from uncertainty. We had to be prepared for complexity around us and ambiguity. But now we have seen that the world is no longer a VUCA environment. It has turned into a BANI environment, and that's why we have to expect the unexpected. But we do have some tips for you. The BANI world talks about a brittle time, a time where we can fail, and it's okay to fail because we are trying new things. But this brings about a lot of anxiety, and it's okay to be anxious. Welcome that anxiety because it's a time of change. Because it's changing all the time, it's non-linear. There's a disconnection between cause and effect, and we cannot explain things. We cannot explain the pandemic. So this makes it even more complex, and it makes us more anxious. So everything is incomprehensible, difficult to understand, impossible to understand. Well, welcome to the BANI world. This is what we are living today. We are in a world that is brittle, where everybody is anxious. Yes, there's a lot of anxiety, and that energy is around. A world where we cannot explain anything, and everything is really difficult and impossible. Jamais Casio has developed and has been talking about this BANI world, this unexpected that we have to be ready for. But we do have the solution, and I want you to take down notes, because we know that the brittleness requires capacity and resilience, and we teachers do have resilience. We are resilient human beings, yes, and we do have the capacity to turn this unexpected world into something good for us and for our students. The anxiety in this BANI world asks for empathy and mindfulness. What is mindfulness? To be present here and now. This is the invitation today. Welcome your emotions. Be empathic with the people around you. We do need to have that empathy to understand others and understand that others are also anxious as we are, as anxious or more anxious sometimes. And they are going through the same BANI environment that we are going through. Non-linearity calls for context and adaptability. We are going to talk about today about adaptability and how we can adapt to all these changes and the wind that is taking us to different places nowadays. And what about the incomprehensibility? It demands transparency and intuition. What do we mean by transparency? If I am anxious, I have to talk about it. And I have to tell my students, my relatives, my friends, I'm anxious. If I am sad, I have to talk about it and tell everybody what's going on with me, yes? You have to relax and take control of your life. You have to be transparent and adapt to the change. What happens when there's a lot of wind? If you do not want to move, you are going to be stressed and you are going to end up ill, yes, with a lot of illness. We need to relax and let the wind blow and take us, and let's adapt to where the wind goes. Of course, we don't want to miss the opportunity to reach our destination. That's why we have to adjust our sails. We really want to focus on our objective and our destination. Remember, you took down notes. Where are you going? What do you need? What do you want? Remember that, because we will go there in a minute, yes? So what's your destination? Where are you going? What do you need? What do you want? It's very important to ask ourselves all the time that question, so that if the wind blows, if the wind of change blows, we keep track of our focus and we adjust our sails. Now, how we adjust our sails? Have you felt like this lately? Choose. Have you felt like overwhelmed, worried? Type in your answers in the chat. Have you felt lately overwhelmed, worried, helpless, frustrated, depressed, paralyzed, scared, all of them? What has happened to you lately? Many of you will choose one that has been the strongest emotion lately, and many of you will tell me all of them, or two or three. Many people say worried, frustrated. Yes, I have felt like that. We have all felt like that, and our students too, and our relatives too. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed, and it's okay to feel worried. There are no negative and positive emotions. All emotions are good. The important thing is that you recognize them. And the important thing is what you do with that emotion. So with the winds of change, it's totally normal that you feel overwhelmed, worried, helpless, frustrated, depressed, paralyzed, and scared. It's okay. Welcome that emotion. What's important is that you recognize you are overwhelmed, worried, and that you do not feel depressed or stressed out, or that you do something that you shouldn't do, like shouting or kicking things, yes? So we welcome the emotions. We talk about how we feel, and then we act correctly. And what is it to act correctly? Is to manage that emotion. So the winds of change are here. Things are changing around. Nothing is the same, and nothing will be the same after the pandemic, because in this bunny world, we all know that things are not going to go back to normal. Things are going to stay. Technology is here to stay. Students will be asking and will be participating a lot, and they want to because they are 21st century learners. And we have to be ready for an active learning lesson. We have to be ready to use technology, innovate all the time. So what do we do with this wind of change? We have to reflect a lot about how we feel, recognize feelings, and start organizing our plan of action to our destination, to where we want to go. The objectives we have with our students, the objectives we have for our future, for our personal lives, for our professional career. Yes? So our next step is, what do you choose? Whenever you feel depressed, or whenever you feel these emotions like overwhelmed, scared, worried, what do you choose? This is something to reflect. What do you choose when you feel annoyed, frustrated? Do you choose to be a victim or responsible? Let's have a look at this. Don't tell me. Let's start thinking and reflecting. A victim is a person who has come to feel helpless and passive in the face of misfortune or ill treatment. Yes? A person that sounds like this: I should, but I can't. If only I could. I never will, or I wish I had more, or I had less. This is terrible. A person that complains all the time, a person that constantly worries about everything, a person that expresses frustration and dissatisfaction all the time because others do this or that, a person that blames others, or a person that compares their life to others. We are a victim sometimes? Yes, people, don't tell me that you are not like this. We are all like this many times, yes? Sometimes in the morning when we are frustrated, we start thinking who is to blame, and we are worried. We are all victims sometime during the day or the week or the year, yes? But the good thing is that if we recognize that state, we can become responsible of our destination, our objective, our focus. What does it mean to be responsible? A responsible person is a person who accepts responsibility over his life or her life, a person who is aware of the role in the context they live. Yes, whether it is in the family, in the workplace, in the community. So they have an understanding, yes, of what does it mean to be a teacher, a mother, a father, yes? So I have a responsibility and I am proud of that responsibility. So how can they live their values in each of these roles, yes? And they have to find a way. Being responsible, not being a victim, yes? So responsible people understand that they have a freedom of choice. They can choose to be a victim or to be responsible. And they accept their priorities and they take action and they do something about it. So what we mean here is, what do you choose to be, a victim or a responsible person? We are all frustrated with the pandemic. We are all worried about the bunny world, and we are all worried about the winds of change. But what do we choose? What do you choose? Do you want to be a victim and stay there? Or do you want to take action and be responsible? We all know that teachers are superheroes. And teachers have this resilience that we always have with us. And we are superheroes for our students and also for our families, yes? So Amy Cuddy has a TED Talk that I invite you to watch, where she says that if we want to make a change in our life, we really need to be responsible. Yes, and this is her talk, Amy Cuddy, then you can watch it at home. And she talks about gaining confidence. How can we gain confidence? Well, she says, starts with your posture. If you are like this, you look like a victim. But if you do like this, you look responsible. So come on, everybody, give me your superhero power pose and be responsible. Be responsible of why we are here in this world and what we have to do. Step out of your worries for a moment, of your feelings, and say, I can do something, and do your superpower pose. Yes? Then you can watch the YouTube video. But it's interesting because there you understand that it's the first step to transform yourself into a super powerful person. Yes? Your shoulders back. If you want, you can put your hands on your waists and you can look up. Yes? Your chest out. Have a look at this. Breathe in and out. Doesn't it feel great? We can do it. We just have to adjust our sails in these winds of change. We have to transform our emotions, and we can do that. Once we recognize we are feeling frustrated, we can find the way to step up. The first thing, powerful yes, the pause, yes, and then breathing in and out helps a lot to focus on your objective. What's your destination? What do you need to transform to reach your destination? First, your attitude, yes? Attitude is very important. Feelings come and go, but we decide what we do. You have the power to choose to be a victim or to be responsible, to take action. Let's take action together and have a look at how we can transform ourselves to reach our destination and our objectives. The Future of Jobs report in 2020 in the World Economic Forum, they have already said that in 2025, 85 million of jobs will be closed. 85 million people will lose their jobs. But this is not a worry. And you know why? 85 million jobs will disappear, but pay attention to this. We are in the bunny world. 97 million new positions will appear, new jobs. And this is the pandemic. Yes, it's the bunny world that everything is changing. It's the winds of change. What do you want to do? Do you want to start crying and be a victim, or be responsible and do something about it? So we want to do something about it. That's what we want. We want to be responsible. Yes? Okay. So in this forum, we heard that by the year 2025, millions of jobs will disappear, but millions of new jobs will appear. What is it I have to do? I have to observe. I have to read. I have to get ready and be responsible for my profession and my objective. It has been already discovered that people will live till 150 years. Yes, the person that will be 150 years old has already been born in 2012. That means that most of us will live longer. And that means that more positions and more jobs will appear. So it's scary, it's new, it's a lot of change, but this is happening. More and more people with people who are 80 years old are still professionals who are working today. And in 20 and 30 years, they will. So we expect, and I expect with 50 years now, that I will keep on working even when I retire. Even if I retire, I will want to be active and keep on working. That demands a lot of jobs, new jobs to take care of our mental health, to take care of the elderly, to take care of technology and all the things that are changing. We have seen how technology has been changing fast in the last 20 years, yes? And some people were really worried about being replaced by a robot, but that hasn't happened and it won't happen, yes? Don't worry about that, but be ready for changing, upskilling, reskilling, and be prepared for the future. In the Future Skills, this site, futureskills.pearson.com, you can have a look and explore the research done by the Nesta Group and the Oxford Martin School in conjunction with Pearson. And you can see what we know about employment in 2030. And you can explore, type in the year of your birth, and you can see what skills you will need according to what you want to do in the year 2030. Imagine, for example, I said I wanted to be an actor when I retire, and they tell me exactly which skills I need to to train myself in, which skills I need to acquire. So there are different ways to be ready for the future. This research in the futureofskills.pearson.com also tells us what are the productivity competencies and which are the transitional competencies we need to stay in career as professionals. So we don't need to worry and be victims. We need to be responsible and do something about ourselves so that we can shine bright. So transformation is about upskilling and reskilling in this bunny world. And to do that, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror, understand where we are going, what is our objective for the future, what do we want to do in 2 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, and get ready for that. So the winds of change are here. Everything is changing, and we need to adjust our sails, and we need to get ready for this. But it's really possible that we can change our emotions and we can start having a new north, a new destination with new skills to train ourselves. So now is the time I want you to work on your paper. On your paper, thinking about all this evidence that we have shared and thinking about who I am and where I want to go. And you can think in the short term or in the long term. This is individual, it's personal, it's your plan, your action plan. But before preparing our action plan, we need to understand where we are standing. Where are you standing? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? Look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your north. What is it you want for the end of the year? What is it you want for next year or for 2 years' time? Look at the strengths you have and look at the weaknesses you have and take down notes. It's important to visualize, it's important to observe ourselves, to recognize, yes, if whenever an emotion comes, I get stuck in that emotion, well, that's my weakness. I need to move on. I need to switch off. I need to understand that I have to, it's okay to feel frustrated, but now I have to do something about it, which could be my strengths that can help me with that weakness. So this is the moment you need to take down notes and have a look at who you are. Look at yourselves in the mirror. Who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? You can do this exercise alone, or you can do it with someone who loves you or with a colleague, or yes, it's important to receive feedback. Yes, but we cannot go, we are going to be stuck and we cannot let the wind take us anywhere. We need to have a goal, an objective. So think about what you want. What do you want? Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? Well, what are the strengths you have for the trip? What are the weaknesses? And then on the right of the paper, yes, you can write, yes, in this observation and thinking time, where you observe yourselves and write strengths and weaknesses, you can also write, what would you like to see? This is interesting because we all know we do have some strengths and weaknesses, but what would you like to see? What would you like to have and you don't have right now? Yes, some people say more patience, less anxiety, yes? Okay, what would you like to see? A different path. I would like to see a different person. Well, what is it you would like to see? Describe that person so that we can understand what you would like to see there. Yes, and think about your north. Where are you going? What do you want to achieve? And to go there, what do you have? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Yes? And what is it you want to see in the future in yourselves? If you want, you can share in the chat also, yes? We have to start being responsible, and we have to reflect. We really need to be responsible of who we are right now and what we are doing with our emotions, yes? So first, attitude. I have to accept, I have to talk about my emotions. And now this transformation, but I cannot transform what I can't see. I need to see myself in the mirror. I need to see who I am. I need to see what's happening to me with these winds of change and the bunny world. I need to see what my strengths are, my weaknesses, and where I want to go and what will I need? What would I like to see in myself? Okay, tell me in the chat, how do you feel about this exercise? This is something that we do have only a few minutes today, but the idea is that you take away this plan and this strategy so that you can implement at home and talk about it with your relatives, with your friends, with your colleagues. Why not with your students? This is a good activity for students too, because students need to talk about feelings and to talk about the future and what they are going to do if this keeps on changing, yes? So how do you feel now? Let's see in the chat box. I want to see your feelings now. How are you feeling now with all the evidence we have shared, the strategy we have shared? How do you feel? Can you hear me well? Come on, that we have a plan, an action plan that I want to share. Yes, you can hear me well. Okay, good. So we have to start managing our emotions. That's the key. Yes. Okay, you are tired. I know it's in Argentina. It's already 9 p.m. Imagine. Yes. But it makes us think. Angela says thoughtful. It makes us think. This is the idea. You are not going to do the activity now, but I want you to take the activity home. Then you can write to me and comment and tell me. And I'm going to give you a little present, a little gift at the end. Yes. So last minutes. Yes. Very good. You can hear me well. You are feeling great with these ideas. This is good to know. So remember, this is an activity that I'm sharing, and I'm going to share more now with you, and I'm going to give you a gift at the end. This is what we have to do. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror, see what's happening, what's going on with these emotions and all that we've been going through, yes, and start doing something. What do I want? What would I like to see? And always with a clear objective. We cannot transform anything that we cannot see, and we cannot reach a destination if we don't know where we are going. So always bear in mind what you want for you, what you need for you and your students, what your objectives are in life. Yes, it's important to have a north, to know where we are going, yes, what our destination is, what we want, what we need. And here I want to share with you a very interesting video from the film Luca. Listen to this.
Entonces, ¿te subes?
No, ni lo sueñes, ni en 1.000.000 de años.
Ey, ya vi el problema. Tienes un Bruno en la cabeza.
¿Un Bruno?
Sí, también lo escucho a veces. Es simple. No escuches al torpe de Bruno. ¡Cállalo! Dile Silenzio, Bruno.
Silenzio, Bruno.
Fuerte. Silenzio, Bruno.
Silenzio, Bruno.
Silenzio, Bruno.
Silenzio, Bruno.
¿Todavía lo oyes?
No, solo a ti.
Bien. Ahora agárrate.
Andiamo, yes, we are on a journey. We cannot be worried all the time. We cannot stay in our emotions. We have to silence the Bruno in our head, telling us that we are in pandemia and we can't do this or we can't do that. We can change, we can adjust our sails and we can adapt to the change that we are going through. Yes, so this is the moment where we have already seen that we need a positive attitude. We need to silence our Bruno there, telling us that we can't do things. We can. We are resilient people. We can change everything. We are responsible, yes, of what we are doing, yes. And now, the last part, my friends, we need to get ready to shine. Once you have the attitude and you know you have the power inside to choose to be responsible and transform anything in your life, you can do anything. You just have to be convinced. So you are worried sometimes? Yes, I am worried. Many times I'm worried, but I can transform. I can manage my worry and I can do something about it because I am a responsible person, yes? So what can we do? Yes, the first thing we said, take it easy. We are all human. We all go through different emotions. Talk about emotions. Take it easy. Talk about it, yes, with your friends. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated, yes? We all have times where we feel like this and we are victims, yes? But we do need to manage our emotions and step out and move out of that emotion. How can we do that? Always remember our objective. What's your destination? What about your students' destination? Where do you want to take your students? Yes, what's your objective? And what is your objective with your students? Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? Every time you are going through a difficult situation and emotions come, you need to think about your objective in life. Your objective for this year, your objective for next year. Some people repeat a phrase like, I can do this. I am a resilient person. I can do this. I have a clear objective. Anger is not going to take me away from my objective. Frustration is not going to take me away from my objective. I do have a clear destination. I know what I want to achieve. I know where I am going, yes? So that's the moment where you can start preparing an action plan. Once you know what you need, remember you looked at yourselves in the mirror and you took down notes of your strengths and your weaknesses. I invite you now to copy the action plan on the screen. When you know what you want for you and what future possibilities are open looking at what you want. For example, some people say, I want to be happy and my final destination is to be happy and relaxed. Okay, what future possibilities does that open for you? Well, I'm going to make many people happier. If I'm happy, my students will see it and my family will see it. Okay. And you are not happy now? No, but I want to be happy. Okay, what actions can you take? Start thinking about 3 actions that you could take to stop being frustrated and unhappy and be happy. Well, I can listen to music I like. I can go out for a walk. I can meet my friends. Okay. And which will be those indicators that will show you that you are on the right path to your destination? Well, that at least I meet my friends twice a week or once a week, that I go walking 2 or 3 times a week. Yes, so those actions need to have an indicator that will help me measure that I'm going on the right path, on the right track. Yes? So again, in the chat box, tell me if you understood the action plan. When I know, I'm going to repeat it once more, but please ask me questions. When I am feeling depressed, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling unhappy or frustrated, overwhelmed, I need to think what I need, what I want, my destination. What do you want, Patricia? Yes? Silence the Bruno there, telling you that you are frustrated and the pandemic and the victim. No, I don't want to be a victim. I want to be responsible. What do I want? Yes? I want to be more patient. I want to have a clear organization. I want to manage my timetable. Well, what future possibilities will that open to you? And which could be the actions you take to be able to be more organized, more patient, less frustrated, or whatever. And don't forget the indicators that will help you measure that you are reaching your goals. Yes? So I told you that you want to be happy, says Sari. Well, Sari, start thinking about all the future possibilities that will give you, what actions you are going to take to be happy, and which indicators will help you move to that happiness. Yes? What are you going to do? Not tomorrow, today. What are you going to do? Have a drink tonight? Yes, go out and meet someone who is always happy and can be contagious. Yes, hug my son. That is something we usually, hugs are very important. And if you don't have who to hug, hug yourselves, because this is very important, yes? Or touch your Timo here, yes? Your time here is very important, yes? So there's always something we can do, but it's only you. You know what you can do to improve your emotions. We cannot tell you. You have to manage your emotions and transform, yes? So let's embrace the winds of change with responsibility, yes? Let's understand that emotions come and go, but we can transform our future. Our future is in our hands. We just have to adjust our sails and we can go anywhere. The winds of change are here, but we can adapt ourselves. We can transform ourselves and we can make things happen. It's not that difficult. It's something that we can do all the time. In the chat box, I'm going to share with you now. Yes, I'm going to share a gift I have for you, because in this upskilling and reskilling, when we have to look for different options, yes, for us to be happy or to do something, we need some ideas, right? So how can we get those ideas? Well, we can get those ideas from this link I'm going to share with you now. This is a place where we have a lot of short videos. We call it micro-learning for upskilling and reskilling. And this is for all of you who have been there, for you to go in and start getting ready for these winds of change. As we have seen today, what is it we have to do? We have to move on. We cannot stop. So in this place, I'm showing you right now on the screen, you can find in the Brain Power Hub by Pearson, you can find lots of ideas, videos, podcasts, yes, lots of ideas for you to move on with these winds of change. And the most important thing is that we are all responsible professionals, and we can look at ourselves in the mirror, change our attitude, and start with our action plan to transform ourselves and the people around you. Yes. Thank you very much for your time. I know it's time, so thank you. It's been a pleasure. I hope you have enjoyed the session as much as I have enjoyed it. And I leave you my email in case you want to share your action plans or ideas. You can be in contact. Yes, anytime. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your night. Good night.
Buenas noches a todos. El día de mañana nos estaremos viendo 8:30 de la mañana para la asistencia. Por correo se les enviará el enlace para el ingreso. Nos vemos mañana. Buenas noches a todos.